started at 6:05, so 3 minutes.
Sounds good. I'm setting up the live stream now.
Cool. Okay. And I am now taking the board and making them fall into the Brady Bunch picture. Hey, Adriana.
Hi.
We'll be getting started soon, so you got here in the nick of time.
Perfect.
All right, the time is 6:05. Did you want to start?
Yeah, why don't we start off, Luis, and I'd like to call the this workshop of the City of Albany Board of Zoning Appeals to order. And if Luis, if you would like to present to us our single item that we have to talk about on the agenda for today.
Yep. So the first and only new business we have is the Stewart Shop on the corner of Washington Avenue and Colvin Avenue. It's up at the planning board now, and the planning board is considering lead agency declaration. So we received a lead agency declaration notice, which has been sent out, and the Board of Zoning Appeals is being requested to consent to the planning board lead agency.
Okay, and I don't think we've talked about this case very much in the zoning board. I mean, I have talked about it with Chairman DeSalvo and some of your colleagues, but
yeah, we can go through it a little bit if you like.
Yeah, if you could give a couple more details for the board, I think that'd be helpful.
Yep. So it's in the Upper Washington Avenue area by the state campus. The square on the right here shows the lots that are to be consolidated to form the site. So the existing key bank and other structures in that area would be replaced with the Stewarts. It's in a mixed-use neighborhood center zoning district, as you can see from this map here. And this is just an aerial of what it would be replacing. So this is the key bank here on the Colvin Avenue, Washington Avenue intersection. Some other structures hereby, or 4 total structures that are going to be demolished in the construction of the gas station and convenience store. So these are a couple of the elevations. We have the west elevation. I believe this would be the elevation to the left of, if you're facing Washington Avenue, looking at the structure. There's the east elevation, the south elevation, and you can tell there's going to be some faux windows here as well, similar to the previous proposal, and the north elevation. And there is some vinyl space picket fence there to kind of conceal the HVAC equipment.
Cool, thanks.
And this is a gas canopy front elevation and side elevation of what the gas pumps would look like.
So now this is going to create a gas station right across the street from another gas station, right?
Yes, from my understanding.
And the pumps will face Washington Avenue?
Let's see, if we're looking at this site plan here, Washington Avenue is this here, and the pumps looks like are going to face away from Washington Avenue, or I guess perpendicular to Washington Avenue, where the vehicles will be coming in. Looks like there's a curb cut here, so the vehicles would be coming in so that they're parallel with Washington Avenue to fuel.
Since Washington Avenue is predominantly residential, is there a reason why the pumps weren't on the Colvin Avenue side of the building?
Because I think the orientation of the structure determines where the gas pumps are. For gas stations, the pumps should be located behind the structure. So that's kind of where that predetermined that location.
Right. It just seems like the building doesn't face the predominant street, and the gas stations are on the street that faces residential as opposed to commercial. I'm just curious as why the orientation of the project is like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that might be answered more in detail at the planning board meeting.
When is this going in front of the planning board again, Louise?
It's currently it's currently at the planning board now. I believe it was just up for concept review yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So they've just started talking about it now. So I think it'll be on the next agenda for this second or fourth Tuesday.
Wait, so it's going across from the Sunoco?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's something about the economics of gas stations that actually is beneficial to them if they're close.
Yeah,
to
hotels and gas stations, the economics of co-location. I don't know.
I see. That's that building on the corner is like the Union building or whatever, right?
Yeah, right here. Or
No.
this used to be a key bank.
Used to be a key bank.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Now, the four structures that are being demolished, none of them are historically significant, are they?
Not from my understanding.
Hmm.
It's not in an historic district. And I don't think that our senior preservation planner had brought up an objection to it.
Okay. So for the project as it exists right now, once we cede lead agency to the planning board, is there any likelihood it's going to come back to the zoning board for anything like any kind of, I don't know, any kind of a permission either for signs or for some kind of variance?
Given that it's in a mixed-use neighborhood center, from what we saw, having two frontages are allowed two signs. So the one sign on the west elevation at 22 square feet would be within the allowed amount, and then the south elevation 22 square feet would also be an allowed amount. Gas station signage, we've generally deferred to federal regulation as to what's required for signage. So that will be the predominant regulation in that area. And I don't think I see like a freestanding sign or anything like that. There might be a canopy sign, but our ordinance doesn't necessarily address canopy signs. So,
yep.
I had seen this application quite some time ago. It was making its rounds to a number of neighborhood associations. And one thing that appeared to me from the site plan was that the driveway aprons exceeded the maximum allowable width. Is that something that the planning department is aware of? And if that's the case, is the applicant going to come back to us for a variance as opposed to the planning board taking a look at that?
I'm not sure. The driveway aprons, like here, this area here, you mean the curb cut being too?
Correct, the curb cuts. Yep.
I believe that they're at 22 feet. Generally, I don't know if we have like something that shows what width they're looking at. I don't think so. But I don't know if, I'm not sure. I can look into that. But I believe that 22 feet was generally like what they were looking for curb cuts.
Because to me, the application looks different than what was making the rounds earlier. For example, the pumps on the Washington side as opposed to the Colvin side, and then the curb cuts. So I'm just curious if this has had an evolution since it was first brought forward.
I'm not sure. I can look into that to see if there were any other iterations. I think there were a couple of different site plans in the project.
I mean,
folder.
it's not germane. The application is what it was. It just, for some reason, I thought those were some issues that had been brought up previously. But if those come up, if driveway if curb cuts are an issue, is that something that we'll be asked to review?
It may be, yes. If the curb cuts exceed what the ordinance says, then the applicant may be asked to get a variance in that sense. I'm not sure it's one of those that are waiverable for general design. I'm not sure if you know, Amy.
It's my understanding that the curb cuts are one of the things they'll be seeking variance for. And the plans have changed somewhat, although the pumps were always on that side. I can't recall off the top of my head if that's been discussed. It hasn't been discussed to a large extent at the planning board. But the review going forward will certainly look at all of these types of things. And I think as far as this goes, I just want to remind everyone that we're really just here today to talk about the lead agency for seeker. And we'll get better documents and information when they submit the actual variance applications.
Thanks, Council. Okay, folks, we're not going to take any action on this now. We'll take action on the lead agency issue at our next meeting 2 weeks from now. And that's about it. I mean, we talked about this a little bit. There are no other active cases. There is still the Judson nuisance case, but that is still in stasis. There has been, to my knowledge, no breakdown of negotiations between the city and the owner and owner's council. So they're not asking us to do anything yet. So that's about that. Does anyone have any other issues that they want to bring up for discussion? Hearing none. In that case.
Oh, I got one, Richard, if I could. Are we still, we're still down a member, correct?
Down 2, yes.
Down 2. What's the status on appointments?
So, and thank you for bringing that up. I forgot to mention that. I asked the mayor's office to renew all of the appointments for everyone on the board right now, the 4 of us who are in holdover status, to do that first. I'm still collecting resumes. As I collect them, I send them over to Chris and I send them to the mayor's chief of staff. They may have a couple of people also in mind, but I haven't heard anything from them. They're sort of more focused on the budget crisis and the COVID crisis. But they do know that I want to renew the appointments of the 4 of us and to get the other 2 spots filled as quickly as possible so that we don't have potential quorum problems. That answer your question, Martin?
Yeah, thank you.
If you have someone that you think is good and doesn't have any kind of conflict, send their resume to me and I'll look at it and I'll pass it along to those guys.
Okay.
Right now I'm looking for North Albany. I'm looking for Central Avenue. Arbor Hill, West End, Sheridan Hollow would be nice. We could do another person down in the South End. But basically looking around those areas because I want to continue to work on the geographic diversity of the board.
I think it helps people to know a good cross-section of the city as well.
Yeah, it does. Especially because we're getting cases that are more spread out across the city, unlike when they used to mostly be downtown and the board members are mostly from uptown. Cool, okay. Anything else, board members? Going once? Going twice. In that case, thank you all for your time and attention as always. And I will see you in 2 weeks. Oh, wait, one last thing before you all jump off. Luis is looking into our stipends and there's been some change in the way they do that in
they went to an electronic purchase purchase order submission process, which for most purchase orders is fine. It's better, but for the board specifically, it's more difficult as we pay individually. So it's like a very large process to get all of them done at once. So I'm looking in to see if there's an easier way, but it might just have to be that we put them in one by one. So it might take a little longer.
You might just have to take out the board members to dinner and such if they're all broke.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you all for your time and attention as always, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye-bye.
take care, everyone.
Take care.
Good evening.